The Explore New England podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Explore New England podcast, the very first edition of the Explore New England podcast. I'm Vinny.
And I'm Heather.
And this is something we've been wanting to do for quite some time, and we're really excited about doing it. We're not really sure exactly what's going to happen on this podcast. We have a basis and a few ideas, so we're very excited to bring you...
But that's what makes it exciting, because we're going to bring you all different stuff. We don't even know yet what it's going to be.
Yes.
We are so excited. We know, for example, we're going to have some guests. We have some ideas of things that we want to tell you guys. Like, when you see our episodes, you know, they're 8 to 10 minute episodes, but we were out wherever we were filming for about usually 3 or 4 hours per episode. And we come down and we come home and we have to condense that into a smaller video. And majority of the time, there's a lot of things that happen to us, funny stories, crazy things that happen that we don't get to put into the video because, you know, we're just trying to keep it on a certain storyline, you know, of wherever we are. So this is going to give us the opportunity to go more into detail on all of our videos and tell you guys some of the funny things that happen.
Yeah, definitely. It's, you know, New England is a very, you know, a place that's really rich in history. Some of that history makes us upset. Some of that history, you know, makes us happy, you know, but it's history nonetheless. And, you know, this is why we do what we do. We want to bring New England to you like you've never seen it before. You know, there's a lot of places in New England that you see on TV that are famous places, and you see it on one TV show after the other, same places. What we do is we take you to the more less talked about places that has just as much history as the well-known places. You know,
you might not get to see it. We like to do the obscure, the roadside attractions, you know, the haunted places you may not even know about, the historical places, like a little bit of everything that may not be featured other places, but you'll get it here with us.
You'll definitely get it here with us. You know, and even the more popular places, you know, like paranormal hotspots, you see them on TV, and, you know, they'll go into a little bit of the history, but they won't tell you the whole history of it. You know, because, you know, them too, they're trying to condense it down into a 60-minute episode, or 45-minute episode, you know, before commercials, you know, so that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to bring you New England like you've never seen it before.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and make sure you hit the notification bell. We have a lot of fun videos coming out and planned, so you can always get the notifications when our podcasts come out or new videos. We also have a Facebook, too, Explore New England on Facebook. We have some really good stuff coming up for that, so you're going to want to make sure that you like our Facebook page. We're going to be doing some contests. We're going to be doing some giveaways, giving away some cool pillows and photography, canvas prints. So really good stuff coming up. So make sure that you've subscribed to our channel and that you like us on Facebook as well.
Yeah, that's something else that I don't think a lot of people know. You know, we do a lot of photography. We love taking pictures of any place in New England. New England is definitely one of the prettiest places in any season, but we especially like the fall time for many different reasons. But yeah, we also do a lot of photography. So if you go on our Facebook page, make sure you like the Facebook page, and you can check out a lot of our photography that we have on there, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, from all over. We've been doing it for quite a long time, so it's really fun.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to be doing something pretty soon where you can actually purchase some of our photography and canvas prints and you know, specialized pillows and stuff like that. All right, so one of the things that we know that we are going to be doing on the podcast is, one of the ideas is we're going to take you, as Heather said before, behind the scenes of our videos. So if you haven't visited our channel, make sure you check the last couple of videos that we did put out. We have a special Halloween edition called Halloween Hill. It's one of our favorite attractions in the New England area that we go to every year. That's pretty cool.
And then one of my favorites, too, the Scarecrow People of Chester. That was the most amazing town. I still can't stop thinking about that town, and I can't wait to visit it again next year.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that we do is we just go for, you know, drives in New England, and a lot of the times the ideas for our videos come just by us driving around, and we happen to see something, and we're like, we have to put that on film. We have to show everyone what we just saw. And the Scarecrow People of Chester, that was definitely one of those times. We were driving in New Hampshire. I think we were on our way back home.
Yeah, we had just said, well, let's just take like a couple more side streets before we hit the highway. It was going to be getting dark, like, I think within the next, like, hour or so. And we knew we had a long, like, drive home. Mm-hmm. And it was just by accident that we found it.
It was just by accident. We saw one scarecrow, and then we saw another scarecrow. and we're like, this is pretty cool. And before we knew it, everybody in the town had a scarecrow outside their house. And, we're driving home and we're like, we have to put this on film. We have to show everybody what we just saw. It wasn't exactly a roadside attraction. It was a townside attraction, I guess you can call it.
When we were talking about it on the way home, at first I was like, but how can we convey this on camera? I was thinking, I'm like, is this going to be too difficult? I'm like, they're spread out all over this town. Like, how are we going to possibly get this on camera? But then the more and more we talked about it and thought about it, we're like, no, well, however we have to do it, we're going to do it because this is so cool.
Yeah, definitely.
And then actually, it ended up working out really well. When we went back to film, it is a big thing in that town. They're extremely well known for their scarecrows. They actually have stores that have scarecrow maps. We couldn't believe it. We were walking around and we saw it was an antique shop, and it said, get your scarecrow maps here. We were like, oh my God, they have maps. So we went in and we got one of the maps, and it was amazing. It was the whole town, and it showed with like little red dots, like all the different streets where people put out their scarecrows and like where, the main of them were. And it made it a lot easier for us as well, even though, it still took us hours and hours. We were filming, we got there pretty early in the afternoon. We were filming all the way till nighttime and we still didn't get to film them all. There were so many.
Yeah, there was over 1,000 scarecrows in the town, and I think we had about 50 or 60 that we actually showed on film.
Yeah.
So definitely check out the Scarecrow People of Chester and the Halloween Hill video. Another video that we recently did, a paranormal investigation at Anawan Rock. We did it a couple of weeks before Halloween, and we really wanted to show everyone what goes into a paranormal investigation.
Yeah, it's something that we've always had a passion of, and we've always done it for years, but we never actually thought about putting it on camera. And then we discussed it more and more, and we said we want to show people what it is, and what paranormal investigating is. And, again, we know that there are skeptics out there, and we're not in this to prove anything to anyone. We just know what we know. We went and we used our equipment. We wanted to introduce you guys as well to the equipment that we use, and we got some amazing stuff while we were there.
Amazing stuff. It told such a story.
Oh, it really did.
When we got there, and, of course, when you get to a location and you're doing a paranormal investigation, you don't know what to expect. There's a lot of times in a paranormal investigation where you can go to the most paranormal place on Earth, and you have all your equipment ready, and nothing happens.
Yeah.
You catch nothing on film, you catch nothing on recorder, and some other times that you go to these places, and it's just paranormal every minute,
It's almost like the perfect storm.
The perfect storm you need, yeah.
Yeah, and this time when we went, it was actually the full harvest moon, and it was really close to Halloween as well, which, when the veil is the thinnest between the living and the dead. So it felt like it had a lot of elements that would definitely help us produce, a good paranormal investigation to go there with those elements. But
right.
You never know what you're going to get. We when we went there, we didn't even know if we were going to be able to film a video.
Right.
Because we said if we don't get anything, then that's it. It wasn't something that we had our heart set on it. You can't when you're filming paranormal.
Right.
Because you don't know if you're going to get anything. So many times we've gone into places and got nothing. And, that's okay. That's what we expect. So we were actually really amazed with everything that we had gotten.
Yeah, definitely. A funny thing is Lizzie Borden house. That's one of the most paranormal hotspots in the country. Mm-hmm. And some nights you can go there and you'll see orbs. You'll get things on your recorder. And then other times you go there and it is quiet as can be. You want to tell the story about how we actually met there at the Lizzie Borden house and how we got into the two people involved in the paranormal actually came together, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's really a crazy story. I love telling it to this day. I get so excited. I just think it's absolutely amazing the way that we met and came together. So the Lizzie Borden house, so my mom is actually a tour guide at this house as well, and she's been working there for, I think it's going on either 8 to 10 years. So every year we usually go there with some of our friends. It's right around my birthday and one of our friends' birthdays, so we always do like a sleepover at the house where we stay up all night and we investigate and everything. And this one particular year, so it would be almost 4 years ago now, we were trying so hard to plan a date for this. Like, every time we would plan a date, something would happen, and we'd have to reschedule it. Mm-hmm. And reschedule it again. And I think we rescheduled 4 different times. We finally came upon a time, it was in June 25th. And it's funny because that's actually usually way later than we plan it. We always plan it in May. But again, we know now that had to happen for a reason. So...
Yeah, so before you go any further... While her and her crew were actually rescheduling the day of when they were supposed to be going to the Lizzie Borden house, me and my brother, we were trying to set up a day of when we were going to go to stay over for a weekend. We had it planned like 2 or 3 different times. For whatever reasons, other things came into the picture, and we had to reschedule. So the weekend that Heather and her crew actually made it to Lizzie Borden house, my brother and I made it that same very weekend.
So it's kind of crazy the way that happened, that both of us had scheduling conflicts. And so many times, like 4 different times for both of us, it would have been different dates that we were there. So it happened to be the same exact weekend that we ended up there. Or it was weekday, I don't even remember. No, it was a weekend.
It was a weekend, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a weekend. So when we had arrived there, my whole crew, we got there and we put our stuff away. And I think we just briefly met you and your brother.
I think so, yeah.
Like, we said hello and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was really funny. You should tell the story about how you thought there was going to be paranormal investigators in the house and that they were going to take it over.
Yes, so we were told by another tour guide that you guys picked a good weekend to come here because there's another paranormal team that's here. And me and my brother were like, oh, great. You know, what a great weekend to come. You know, now we can't do our investigation because this other paranormal team's going to be there taking up the whole house and we're not going to be able to do anything.
Yeah, so that was really funny. I didn't even know that till after. I guess I can see how you would think that too. You're like, oh man, we came to investigate, and you're thinking if it's a professional team, we're just going to set up all of our equipment. And
I thought you guys were going to ruin the whole weekend for us.
Little did you know.
Yeah, little did I know that it would change my life.
Yep. So
our life.
Oh, I know. So we ended up coming and we met them briefly, and then I think you and your brother had gone out to dinner, and we stayed at the house. And so we had already set up, and we were investigating when you guys came back. And then when you came back, you know, we didn't get to talk much one-on-one, me and you, because everyone was around. It was a full house that night. It was all of, you know, my friends and family, and then you and your brother, and there was other guests there as well. So we all just kind of investigated as a group for a few hours, and it was really fun. We were getting a lot of really, really good evidence. And then this is where the interesting part comes in. We still talk about how funny it is. So every time we've gone to, like I said, this is a yearly tradition. We go there every year. And we stay up all night and we investigate, usually till the sun comes up. Like, it's just, we just don't sleep. We're so excited for this. And then this one particular time, I remember it was pretty early on. All the other guests had already gone to sleep. And I think at this point, it was me, you, your brother, and then just my family and friends. And then everyone just started, I said, like, dropping off like flies. Everyone started saying, oh, I'm so tired. I'm just going to go to bed early. I'm just going to go to bed early. And I'm thinking, you guys are going to bed early. We never go to bed early. Everyone was just so exhausted. So everyone just started leaving. Your brother said, I'm so tired, right? I got to go to bed.
And I said to him, what do you mean? You know, we've been planning this for weeks now, and you just want to go to sleep? You know, I was amazed, you know.
Right.
So my brother fell asleep. Heather's crew fell asleep, leaving just Heather and I in the house to get to know each other.
Yeah.
And it was almost by fate.
It really was.
Actually, it was fate. I'm not even going to say it was almost by fate. It was fate.
It was supposed to happen exactly like that. And then me and him, we looked around and we're like, the last ones there, we're like, okay, want to hang out and investigate? And we were both like, yeah. So we ended up, we were in the basement at that time and we were investigating down there. And then we ended up literally just staying up all night, paranormal investigating, talking, getting to know each other. We even, I always joke, we watched the sunrise because we went outside when the sun was starting to come up and we're like, we made it all night investigating.
Yep.
And it was just a really crazy coincidence the way that happened. And then the next morning before him and his brother left, we exchanged phone numbers and the rest is history. Led us to where we are now. And we love paranormal investigating. It holds, like I said, such a special place in our heart because that's what brought us together and that's how we met.
Exactly.
And we both share the same passion. And then, you know, we found out more and more of the stuff that we both enjoy to do. We love exploring. We love filming. We love photography. There's so many things that we have alike that we both love. That it's just amazing. And we have the most fun with each other than anyone in the world.
Absolutely.
We just love to spend time together, do the things that we love to do. It's absolutely perfect.
We definitely hope that comes across on screen. Doing the paranormal investigating and the exploring, you know, there's nothing better than that, as Heather said. So, actually, if I'm not mistaken, the Lizzie Borden house actually put together some other couples throughout its tenure as a bed and breakfast.
Yeah, they have. The couple, the tour guides had met there, and then they got married. A couple other people as well that my mom had said, so we always call it Lizzie the matchmaker.
Yeah, so, you know, the paranormal, it's a very fascinating field. If you're not a believer of the paranormal, that's fine. You know, actually, you know, being a little bit of a skeptic works in this field.
It's good to be a healthy bit of skeptic. Even
yeah,
ourselves,
definitely.
We have to debunk things, you know.
Right.
We're not running around saying everything is paranormal.
Right.
You can't, you know.
Actually, before we go any further, I want to tell you guys about a story that happened that weekend that Heather and I met at the Lizzie Borden house. It was so weird. What had happened is my brother and I had gone out all day because they were doing tours at the house. And we actually went to the cemetery. Was it Oak Grove Cemetery?
Yeah, Oak Grove Cemetery where they're buried.
Yep. So we went there, you know, we visited the Borden family there, paid our respects, and we actually went back to the house. It was about 4 o'clock. We were in the bedroom, which was the John Morse, which is the guest room. John Morse, of course, is the uncle of Lizzie Borden, who visited the house a couple days before the crime actually took place. Anyway, my brother and I are in the room. My brother falls asleep. He said he was very tired, from us walking around all day long. So he fell asleep, and I was doing some work on my laptop. And we were in the room for about an hour. And then all of a sudden, a fly started flying around the room. It was very interesting because the windows were closed. There was really no space underneath the doors or anything like that. So, I mean, usually if you're in a room with a fly, you know it right away. You don't sit there for an hour and then all of a sudden see a fly. Well, regardless of how the fly got in there, the fly starts buzzing around my head after we've been in the room for about an hour. Fly's flying around. I'm trying to swat it away. Finally, about a half an hour goes by. My brother wakes up. I tell him, I said, there's this fly in here. He just won't leave us alone. He's flying around our heads. I'm trying to swat him away, but he just keeps, diving at me. So finally I get up, and keep in mind, our REM pod that we had set up in the room, the REM pod is, it beeps and lights up whenever a spirit will get next to the antenna that sticks up. So I rolled up a newspaper, and I got tired of seeing this fly. So I rolled up a newspaper, and I said to my brother, as soon as the fly lands on a wall or something, I'm going to smack it. Now, usually a fly will land somewhere. This fly was not landing anywhere. It just kept flying around the room, flying around my head. It was harassing me, actually.
It was relentless.
It was relentless. It was worse than a horsefly. So anyway, after a couple of minutes, finally the fly lands on the window. And I seen it, bent my arm back with the newspaper, and just as I was about to smack it, the REM pod lit up like a Christmas tree. All the lights lit up on it. The alarm was sounding on it. And I just immediately, I looked over my brother. His jaw dropped to the floor. And by the time I looked back at the window to see if the fly was still there, the fly was gone. Never seen him again for the entire time we were in the room. And, my brother and I actually went out to dinner again that night just to relax. And, we were talking it over, what had happened in the room. And we were laughing and we were smiling. We were excited because, that was a pretty cool occurrence that happened in that bedroom. So we go back to the house later that night. So usually what happens is whenever you spend the night at the Lizzie Borden house or you spend the weekend there, a couple of nights, what have you, one of the tour guides will actually do a paranormal investigation with all the guests that are in the house. So that's what we did later that night when we came back from dinner. And I would say there was about 12 people altogether, 10 to 12 people that were in the house as guests staying over and whatnot.
My mom was actually the tour guide that night.
Your mom was actually the tour guide, yes.
We were spending the night anyway, so she just took over doing the night tour and the investigation because we were going to be there investigating anyways.
Again, this is the weekend that Heather and I met, so everyone was together anyway.
Yeah.
All 12 of us were sitting in a circle, and Heather's mom says, her name is Deb, says, I'm going to pass around a piece of equipment, and I want each of you to ask a question to the Borden family, or to Lizzie, or whomever, whatever spirit they want to communicate with. That piece of equipment was actually the Ovilus, which if a spirit can choose a word from the dictionary that's inside this piece of equipment. You can actually see that on our Anawan Rock video, how it works. So she was passing around the Ovilus, and some people asked a question, some people got the answers to their questions, some people got an answer that didn't really make sense. So by the time the Ovilus got passed to me, the person on my right passed it over to me, and before I even had a chance to ask a question, the Ovilus said, fly, F-L-Y. I was so spooked out, I passed the Ovilus right over to the person next to me on my left. I said, here you go.
You didn't even need to ask a question.
Didn't even need to ask a question. And the real spooky thing here, nobody besides my brother, nobody in that house knew what happened in that bedroom earlier on with the fly. So the whole situation was really spooky. I look back at it now and I get excited talking about it because it was for me, it was a really cool paranormal moment. So after everyone's seen the look of surprise on my face, I ended up telling everybody in the group that was sitting in the circle, I told everybody what had happened to my brother and I up in the bedroom earlier on that day. And everyone was just blown away. It was just, it was so crazy. So again, the paranormal is very special to us. So, and actually to take you guys even further back into how we got into the paranormal aspect of everything, I think Heather can start off telling you.
Yeah, so the way that I first got interested in it, and I mean, it goes way back. So my sister was the one who actually started it all for us. She had gotten a hold of a book that had all different haunted places in the area. And her friends used to just go and explore, and they used to go to all these different places in New England. And then I was young. I can't even remember how old I was, but I was young.
Do you remember what that book was called?
It was New England Ghost Files.
New England Ghost Files, okay.
It's one of our absolute favorite books. Like, I can't tell you how much we read that book over and over again, and we went to as many places as we possibly could. So my sister had actually picked it up somewhere, and she and her friends got really interested in it. And then I used to hear about her going there, and I used to beg her, please take me along, please, I want to go with you guys. And, so her and her friends would take me along with them to go to these different haunted places. And I remember Anawan Rock was one of them. Another place, Shad Pond Factory. I remember we drove by the Lizzie Borden house once. It was in the book, and we sat in the parking lot and looked at the house.
And that was before your mom started working there?
Yeah, this was way before she even got interested in the paranormal with us.
Oh, wow.
It was really crazy. I actually have a funny story I'll go back to after about the Lizzie Borden house.
I'm not even sure I even heard this story, so I'm very intrigued.
Oh, yeah, so way back from the beginning. And yeah, we used to go to all these places. We didn't have any equipment. We would literally just go and walk around. It was just fun and thrilling and exciting. And then somehow my mom ended up hearing about, all the stuff. She always knew where we were going, but she ended up hearing us tell her the stories about how fun it was to just go to these places and explore and the whole adventure of it, making it little road trips. And she started to become interested and was like, I want to come along with you guys as well. So we would all hop in a car and we would do the same thing. We'd look through our book, we'd pick a spot to go, and we would go and explore. And again, no equipment, nothing about that. We would read the paranormal claims and we would go and just have such a fun time. I mean, every chance we got to the three of us, we would pack up the car with snacks and take our book and go. It turned into one of our favorite things to do. And then one day, my mom, with the three of us, had a day off. My mom, my sister, and myself. And it was raining out, so we weren't able to go. Well, I mean, we could have, but my mom said, let me try to plan something fun for us to do indoors. So she went online, she started looking around, and she planned a day for us to go to the Lizzie Borden house, bed and breakfast, to go for a tour, and then to go to the Battleship, which is also stationed in Fall River. You can tour it. So we went, and we took a tour, and there was actually a sign up on the front door that said hiring tour guides. So we went through the tour. We ended up getting a private tour. We were the only ones on there. And my mom fell in love with the house. She fell in love with the story, the history, and she went in and asked if she could apply. They handed her a script. She went home, memorized it in a day, and she went back the next day. And she did the whole tour, and she got hired right then and there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that was, like I said, it was almost 10 years ago now. Mm-hmm. And then over the years of her working there, we were already interested in the paranormal. We just learned more and more about it. She learned more about the equipment by seeing other paranormal teams, as well as TV shows come into the Lizzie Borden, because lots of different TV shows filmed there.
A lot of different TV shows.
A lot of TV shows. So she got to see, more people using the equipment, and she learned about it. And
she's been she's been a part of those TV shows too.
She has, yeah. She's been actually on quite a few TV shows, the news, different stuff. So really fun opportunities have come from it. And then we just started to learn how to use the equipment. We studied up on everything, and then we formed a team, DLH Paranormal, which was me, my mom, my sister, and then over the time, we've joined a couple of our other friends on it as well, have helped us with other things, and it really grew into a great paranormal investigation team. We would go to people's houses and investigate for them, help them figure out what was going on. We do full house cleansings, and we've helped a lot of families over the years.
And that's the most important thing, I think, out of it all. It's not so much to, for the wow factor, like, oh my God, wow, we saw an apparition, or we saw an orb, or we're here knocking, or whatever. I think the most important thing is that you guys want to help these families.
And that's what came from it exactly, was our main objective was, we were like, there are so many people out there who have paranormal activity, and they may not understand it the way that we do, because we've been, working with it for so long, and we know how to handle it, and we have the equipment and everything. So it was really a great opportunity for us to feel like we could go out and help people.
Right.
And so that's what, brought us to today. We just continued with our group, helping places and people, and it really was amazing. Still to this day holds such a special place. I love paranormal investigating, and it's awesome.
A lot of people don't know where to turn. A lot of people don't believe in this stuff, again, which is fine. But then, weird things will happen in their house and or anywhere, so on and so forth. And then it makes them a believer,
Exactly.
Sometimes even people who call paranormal teams to help them out still really don't believe that it's paranormal. But they just don't have anywhere else to turn to.
Yeah, they don't know what to do. What do you do in that case,
right.
And that's what we were there for, was to help people. And we'd go in, everything was free of charge. We'd go in, and a lot of these families, we worked with them for a really long time, too. We didn't just go in and investigate and leave. We would go in, we do a thorough investigation. We sit down, review everything. We do the history on the house to figure out what's happening.
Right, you have to know the history.
Yeah,
you know?
and we wouldn't leave these families until they felt like everything was taken care of. You know, we do full house cleansings. We have a shaman that we worked with that would help, you know, clear energies and stuff. There's a lot to it, but it was a full circle thing. If we went in to help you, we weren't leaving until you were helped. And, you know, we worked with these families for a really long time. And
the real life Ghostbusters.
Yeah, exactly. And we're still in contact with all of these people to this day. You know, you build a lot of really good connections with something like that.
Yeah, you do. You definitely do.
Because it brings you close, you know?
It does. It does. You know, and I think people forget, too, that spirits are people.
Mm-hmm.
They were once people, you know, and they still are in a lot of ways, you know. So it's not like you see in the horror movies where, you know, the ghosts and goblins and demons, and the demons are very real, but, you know,
they're different than human spirits,
right? And you know, I think Hollywood, you know, portrays things a little bit different than how the real deal paranormal is.
A lot different,
yeah, you know. But again, you know, they're trying to sell movies and sell movie tickets and what have you, but
it's a lot of, like, hyped up. But, I mean, you have to remember, too, with spirits, just as people are, there's good people in life and there's bad people in life.
Right.
Those energies carry on. So
Absolutely.
Sometimes you are dealing with a human entity, but it's a really bad energy and it's
Right.
a bad spirit. That can happen. It's not as common as usually it's just a family member or someone attached to the house or items. And there's so much to it. There's different types of hauntings. There's residual, you know, active hauntings. There's a lot to it, and you really have to know about it before you're going into a place.
How I got into the paranormal is a lot different than how you did. My brother happened to be a fan of all the paranormal shows that were on television. In 2019, as you know now, there's 15, 20 different paranormal shows?
Yeah, minimal.
Yeah. You know, back then, when we got into it, there was only a couple that were floating around on TV. So my brother was really interested in the paranormal, and, you know, he had been talking for months about getting some of the equipment. But the only problem was we didn't have a place. We didn't have a haunted house to go to or anything like that. So my brother actually suggested that we go to a cemetery, you know, just to try out the equipment and just to see, you know, try out, you know, how we do an investigation. So we did. We picked out Union Cemetery in Easton, Connecticut, which, if anyone knows the history of Union Cemetery, you can actually go back and check out one of our other videos, which is Tales from Haunted New England Cemeteries. We actually tell you a couple stories about Union Cemetery. It's highly active with paranormal activity. Ed and Lorraine Warren actually did a book called Graveyard about that cemetery and about the different paranormal activity that took place there. So we went there, and we figured, you know, that would be the first place that we go to try everything out. We were there at dusk. I think it was like, at that time, dusk was like around 5 o'clock or 4:30, and we were there for hours. Union Cemetery, if you've been there, the cemetery sits right in the middle of a fork in the road. It's a very, very busy area, especially during rush hour. There was a lot of noise pollution in the area, and, you know, but we were still just messing around with the equipment, you know, trying to get our footing, learning. And so basically we really didn't get any evidence. Nothing was really happening. We saw some flashes of light in the woods that surround the cemetery on one side. We saw some, like, clear flashes, but again, it could have been headlights, it could have been, you know, it could have been something else besides paranormal. And we were there for hours, and again, we didn't really get much, and then I think it was about 11 or 11:30 at night. The traffic had calmed down by that time, and we were still messing around with the EVP recorder. EVP, again, is for electronic voice phenomenon. And we were messing around with the recorder. Now, if you know the EVP recorders, you can't hear responses in real time. If I'm standing there with the recorder and I'm saying, hey, is there anyone here that wants to speak to us? I can't hear the responses until we play it back. At that time, we were still learning, so we weren't really playing any messages back. We were just trying to take all the recordings that we possibly could. We were going to listen to them later on at home, the next day, whatever. It was about 11:30, quarter to 12 at this point. I had asked a question, is there anyone here that wants to speak to us? Now, throughout the night, I asked that a bunch of times, didn't get any responses. Going back and listening to the recordings, we didn't get any responses. When it was later at night, when I asked that question again, we actually got a message that said, and still to this day, it's really clear, it's a Class A EVP, but can't really decipher whether it says 2 minutes or 2 men. I'm going to go with it says 2 men.
I thought it sounded like it said 2 men too, but I can see where it could also say 2 minutes.
Right, exactly. You know, a very clear EVP. Again, it was just, you know, just very hard to hear exactly what it was saying. I think it said 2 men. 5 minutes later, the police actually came to Union Cemetery, because you're not supposed to be there after dark. And they actually kicked us out. We were actually there talking to the police officers, you know, for a good 15, 20 minutes. And, they were really nice guys. One of the officers actually said that he had a couple of paranormal experiences there, too. He said, I usually do my radar right here. There's like a little driveway that leads into the gates of the cemetery. He said, I usually do radar here, or he goes, or at night, late at night, I do my paperwork. He goes, so I back up into this driveway. He goes, and I just sit. And he goes, and I do my work, whatever. He says he's seen a lot of lights. Again, anyone who's been to Union Cemetery, there's an old church that's right across the street. But the church hasn't, at that time, it wasn't in use for a few years leading up to the night that we were there. And all electricity had been cut from the building. And the police officer actually said that a few nights while he was there doing radar and doing his paperwork, he would see a light come on in one of the rooms and then go off. And he goes, a lot of times, he goes, I would go over there to check to make sure somebody wasn't burglarizing the building. The times that he checked it out, the doors were locked, the windows were locked, no signs of anybody entering. The police officer even had some paranormal activity there. But anyway, but that was our first foray into the paranormal world. We got the EVP that night, and it changed my life. I mean, I went from being open-minded to definitely being a believer in the paranormal. I mean, you can't dispute that. When there's two people in a cemetery, and you make a recording, you play that recording back, and there's another voice there, it's undisputable.
Yeah, that's usually what actually turns people into same thing, either being open-minded or not really having an opinion on the paranormal, is having their own personal experience.
Right.
Even myself, I couldn't say that I didn't believe in it before. I was open-minded until I had my own experience. I wanted to possibly believe in it, but I didn't know until I experienced something. And then I could solidify, okay, yes, this happened to me, I believe.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, that's exactly the way it is, And like, I know, like, my father, like, he doesn't believe, he'll watch our videos, and some of the paranormal things that we catch on tape and we put in our episodes, he's definitely, he'll be a little on the...
He wants to believe, though.
Yeah, he wants to believe it, He actually wants to come along on a paranormal investigation to make him a believer.
Yeah.
So, that's actually something that we're actually trying to put together with him.
Be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun. But that was my foray into it, and then you and I met, a couple years later, and the rest is history.
Yeah, paranormal history.
So, having said all that, it brings us to the present day, and that's how we got into the paranormal, from both of our sides. I guess what we'll talk about today is one of the last videos that we did, The Haunting of Anawan Rock. Now, Anawan Rock is in Rehoboth, Massachusetts. It's actually the location, one of the locations, where part of the King Philip's War took place.
Now, the King Philip's War, it was a very, very bloody battle. The location of Anawan Rock is actually the spot where Chief Anawan was captured, and that ended the King Philip's War.
Yeah, and Chief Anawan was actually the chief of the Wampanoag.
Yep.
Native American tribe, which is, from this area. It's been a place where there's been a lot of paranormal claims, paranormal activity comes from this site. When we went into it, we really didn't know what to expect. We didn't know if we were going to capture any evidence. We just weren't sure. We weren't even sure if this was even going to be an episode, again, until we were there. And then everything came together. I truly believe the spirits there told the story for us. All we had to do was capture it on film.
Yep.
I truly believe that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Again, we went in there knowing the history. We didn't know if we were going to be able to communicate with any spirits or what was going to happen. And then by the time we had finished and we had gone home and we reviewed everything and we put it all together, we said, wow, they told us a story. We just had to put it out there together for people to see. But the spirits are the one that told us their stories. And it really was amazing. The more we unraveled and each piece of evidence that we reviewed and as we went along, it really shocked us to be like, wow, this really was a story.
It made us believers that the spot was actually a hot spot for paranormal, because again, even if you're in the field, you'll hear, people talk about a certain area, a certain location that has a lot of activity, but until you go there and until you actually investigate it yourself, obviously you really don't know. You don't know what to believe. There's been a lot of stories of phantom fires being seen from people that were out driving by.
My sister actually says she saw that fire.
Oh, okay.
She did. She was there with her friends. So this is before I started begging her to go with her out on her paranormal excursions. Anawan Rock was one of the places that was in the book. And her and her friends went there. And they had gone into the rock. They walked up to the rock and it was nighttime. They got themselves scared. So they ran back to the car. And it's just kind of like a short walk from the parking lot. And they were sitting in the parking lot. And they saw a glowing, like, reddish light on top of the rock. And they were all too scared to go and check it out. And so they drove away. But it was right after they'd been in there, and while they were in there, they didn't see anything. And I don't know if it's paranormal. I just think it's really interesting.
It is very interesting. It definitely is. And again, sometimes the paranormal, it balances on the line of, is this reality? Or, am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? Or is there a logical explanation for what we are seeing?
Yep. And I also have another really interesting story. Now, this isn't paranormal, but it is extremely creepy. I will never forget this story. So this happened maybe about 6 or 7 years ago, I'm going to say. Me and my sister, we both had the day off from work. And again, one of our favorite things to do, drive around, go to, as they say, haunted locations and just go exploring. And on that particular day, we decided to go to Anawan Rock. We also wanted to go to another cemetery that was over there, Rehoboth Village Cemetery, which is another popular haunted cemetery.
Yeah, it is.
And they're both on Route 44. So we decided to go to the Rock first. So when we pulled in, I think it was in the springtime, so it was a nice day. And we were the only ones there. There's usually not many people there, and the parking lot's small. So we parked, we walked into the Rock. It was quiet, there was no one there. And now there's two ways that you can go up the Rock. You can either climb up the very front of the Rock, which they don't recommend because it's really not safe. It's really steep.
Yeah, very steep.
Yeah, you really shouldn't do that. Or you can go around the back of the Rock and there's kind of like a path up. Well, my sister said, well, why don't we just climb straight up the Rock? We were like, okay, sure, let's do it. So,
of course.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why we thought that was a good idea, but we did. So we just climbed straight up the Rock. And we got up to the top and we're like, whoo, all right, awesome, we're here. We sat down on the Rock, and I think my sister might have had the K2 meter, which is a piece of paranormal equipment, or it was the EVP, and we were going to do a little something while we were there. So we had been on top of the Rock for maybe about 5 minutes or so. We were just kind of settling ourselves in. And all of a sudden, we heard coming into the woods. Again, there's a short path from the parking lot into where the Rock is. You can't see really the parking lot when the trees have leaves on them, but you can hear everything from the road, kind of. We heard what sounded like a group of teenagers or kids or a loud group of people. They were being really loud. It was like, all kinds of yelling. And we were like, oh, great. We're not going to get anything done here. It's just going to be too loud with all the people here. And we were thinking, there's no way we're going to get, EVPs done or anything like that. But we just decided, it is what it is. So we're sitting and we're waiting for all these people that we hear to come into the woods. And there was no one there. We didn't see anyone walk in. So we're like, okay, that was really, really strange. So we sat back down on the Rock, and then I think it was a couple minutes later, I just happened to lean over the Rock, and I saw there's a bench in front of the Rock. There was a man sitting down there at the end of the Rock, at the bottom on the bench. He was wearing, I couldn't really tell. It looked like an oversized, baggy gray suit, and he had his hair, long black, kind of unkept hair. And he was sitting on the bench, and he was just rocking back and forth, staring at the Rock, rocking back and forth. And as soon as I looked down at him, I just got this really creeped out, pit in my stomach feeling. And I'm not really a paranoid person, but I always know to trust my instinct. Mm-hmm. I've always been told, it has never failed me to this day, trust your instinct.
Me neither.
Yep. Huge pit in my stomach. I said, oh no, I don't like this. Something's not right here. So I said to my sister, I kind of snuck back up on top of the Rock. I said, Laura, we have to go. I was like, there's a really creepy guy sitting at the bottom of the Rock. I was like, and he's freaking me out. She's like,
you two are alone at this point.
Oh yeah, it's just me and her.
Just you and her at the Rock with this weird fellow.
Yes, exactly. So, and I knew something was wrong. So she told me, she's like, oh, Heather, stop it. You're just being over dramatic. We're fine, typical Laura fashion. And all of a sudden I said, okay, then I said, you look down at him. And she leaned over the Rock and she looked back at me and said, we have to go. I said, thank you. I know. I said, you're creeped out too? She said, yes, something is not right here. So we were like, okay, how are we going to get out of here? We don't want to climb down the front of the Rock with our back to him, and he's just able to just lunge at us or whatever if something happens. So we decided to go back down the Rock. So I picked up, I think I remember picking up a stick or something. I was like, I need a weapon or something. And Laura had a nail file in her pocketbook, so she pulled out her nail file, so we each had something just in case. And Laura actually turned on the voice recorder too, so it's funny because to this day it's somewhere. We still have the recording of this whole episode so we could prove that it really happened to us. So we climbed down the back of the Rock, and then we ended up having to go around. So we decided we didn't want to walk in front of him. So there was kind of you could go through the woods and come up behind him. So we decided to do that. And before we even got close to him, he didn't turn around or anything. He said, come to play, munchkins. And we both
Oh my God.
Yeah, he didn't turn around. He didn't look at us. All he said was, as we were coming up behind him, come to play, munchkins. I think we just both looked at each other and our stomachs just dropped. We were like,
Now, you guys were being quiet as you were coming up, so...
Oh, yeah, quiet. We didn't say a peep. And, like, even if he did hear us, okay, say hello. Like, what a weird thing to say.
Yeah, that is pretty strange.
Come to play, munchkins? Oh, it was so weird.
Yeah.
So, we ended up walking out in front of him, and again, we have this all on the digital recorder. We said, oh, hi, how are you? Beautiful day, isn't it? He's like, oh, it is beautiful, isn't it? Or something like that. And then I'm trying to remember exactly how it happened. It was so long ago. He said something like, do you come to this rock often? And we said, yeah, we come here from time to time. And he had, like, wild eyes. Like, he just looked just crazy. His suit was baggy. His hair was a mess. Like, he just looked very unkempt and kind of crazy. So we said, yeah, we come here, sometimes and just explore and this and that. He said, oh, yes, I come here often, too. He said, I come here with my group, and you will see us sometimes worshiping on top of the rock. We come here on what you call All Hallows Eve, and we worship on this rock. And we're like, oh, cool, great, that's wonderful, really cool, good for you. And then we said, okay, have a nice day, and we're trying to walk out. And he goes, and he stands up, and he goes, you, and he points to my sister, and she froze. She goes, yeah? He goes, I want to show you something. He said, pick up that stick over there. It was like a tall stick on the ground. So she picks it up, and he goes, now draw a circle in the dirt. And my sister's just frozen. And what does she do? She draws a circle in the dirt. Right?
Why would she even do something like that?
She was just terrified. I mean, I get it, too. I was paranoid. I just stopped and I froze like this, and I was just staring at the whole situation. You don't know what's happening. You're like, let me just, do what he wants so we can get out of here, right?
And you were younger, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
we were just like, okay. He goes, now repeat after me. And she goes, Mother Earth. And she's going, Mother Earth. And he says, like, this whole incantation or whatever, and he has her do it. And he's like, now you'll see what that does. You'll see what that does. Or he said something like that. Now you'll see. And we're like, oh, that's great. So Laura's still standing there and he's talking to her. So we actually didn't even have any cell phone service. I specifically remember this. But I pulled out my phone as if it rang. And I picked it up and I went, oh, hey, Mom. Yep, we're at Anawan Rock. We're 10 minutes away. We'll be home soon. And I went, Laura, we got to go. Mom's waiting for us. She knows we're here. We got to go. That was the first thing I could think of to be like, to tell him, okay, someone knows where we are. Someone's expecting us. Laura, we have to go. So she ended up walking away, and she put the stick down. And
that was smart, by the way.
Thank you very much. And in the moment, that's all I could think to do. I was like, I have to get us out of here. We ended up walking out, and he was yelling at us the whole way out to the parking lot. Like, I don't remember what he was yelling, but he just kept yelling and yelling. And we just kind of booked it, and we ran back to the car, and we got in the car. And I found it weird that he had a car in the parking lot as well, but it was a rental car. I don't know why. That just the whole situation struck me as weird. Mm-hmm. And then I also think, was he the one making all that noise when he came in? So I guess we'll never know, but I know that it's definitely something we'll never forget.
Yeah, that's a creepy story for sure.
It really. To live it was even creepier.
I can imagine, yeah. Yeah, Anawan Rock is definitely a interesting place, to say the least. What we're going to do is we're just going to talk a little bit more about what happened during our investigation of Anawan Rock. Again, you can see our video that we did, The Haunting of Anawan Rock, which is available now on our YouTube page. So when we first got to Anawan Rock, what we did is, now we didn't bring a lot of equipment with us. We brought the REM pod, the EVP recorder, the Ovilus, and
the spirit box.
And it was the dowsing rods as well. So we didn't have that much equipment. When we first got there, we put down the REM pod, and we figured, it's outside, so we really didn't know how well the REM pod was going to act for us. We ended up not getting anything with the REM pod. It didn't go off one time. But that's not to say all of our other equipment didn't go off. We had a couple EVPs with the EVP recorder, and we got a lot of EVPs with the spirit box, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, the spirit box was very active. There was a couple that were very, very clear, and those are the ones that we included. Most of the other ones, they were harder to make out. We couldn't quite decipher what they said, but they were definitely a lot of answers.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because the ones that we did show you on our video, you can tell if you listen, they actually sound like the same voice.
They do. They definitely do.
So it makes you believe that it's coming from, the same spirit. And that's always, I find, interesting with the spirit box. You can hear that they sound the same.
Yeah, it's kind of undisputable when you keep hearing the same voice come through on the spirit box. It kind of definitely confirms what we thought it was.
Gary Golko was actually the designer for the spirit box. He makes a lot of really amazing equipment as well. His daughter had passed away, and he could tell that she was trying to communicate with him. And he was, I believe, an engineer, so he decided to try to make equipment that he would be able to communicate with her. And it's uncanny, the evidence that he's gotten and the responses. You can actually hear him play voices that come from his daughter, and then he'll play a recording of his daughter, and you can hear that they sound exactly the same.
Now, it was on some TV show, I'm not sure which one, but wasn't that he caught her on Spirit Box on her birthday?
He did, yeah. He had a conversation with her on her birthday. She came through and said, "Miss you, Daddy."
Oh my God, can you imagine?
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine hearing that?
Yep, so he created that, and he created other pieces of equipment as well.
It's such a feeling to get that, what's the word I'm looking
Validation.
for? Validation that your loved ones have passed over and they're safe.
Gives you comfort.
It gives you a lot of comfort, absolutely. Yep, so we definitely got a lot of things with the Spirit Box. One particular thing we got with the Spirit Box, we think, is the word river. That's what it sounds like to us. And once again, it's in our video, so take a look at it, see what you think. We think it says river. The reason why we think it says river is because between the EVP recorder and the Spirit Box and the Ovilus, we got a lot of evidence that pointed toward water. Now again, go back and look in our video. There's absolutely no way to coerce these pieces of equipment. You can't tell them what to say. They tell us the story. Now we happen to think, from doing a lot of research about the Wampanoag Native American tribe and just Native American tribes in general, we find it very interesting that all of the equipment, had mentioned water, because when the Wampanoag Indian tribe, Native American tribe, camped out at Anawan Rock, they only camped out for a couple of days. They didn't plan to stay there long. Then, of course, they were ambushed by the English.
Yeah, we think that he chose the rock, believing that would be, at that time, a better protection because they could hide behind the rock. So anyone coming up on them wouldn't be able to see them. So he basically made that decision to say, okay, this rock is going to be the safest area for us to camp out, as opposed to what they normally would choose, which would be a place by water,
right,
so they could make a quick retreat. Because who knows what would have happened. I mean, the history could be so different if they had picked a different place to camp with water. Would they have been able to escape? There's a good chance of it. With this, they had nowhere to go. There was nowhere to go.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. Yeah, so we think all the equipment was telling us water, because we're thinking that was the message that the spirits were trying to convey to us, was they should have picked a location that was close to water, because like Heather said, history would have been a little different. We think that's what the spirits were trying to convey to us.
We also got the word regret.
Regret, yes.
We got regret first, and then after we got river. So if everything just tied in together with what they were saying is, just like you said, regret setting up camp there,
right,
instead of by the water.
Right. Now, what actually happened to Chief Anawan? What did they do with his... They beheaded him, and then what happened?
So his head was hung up on a post, I think, for almost a year in the center of town.
Wow.
After they had, beheaded him. So it was very gruesome, Things were obviously a lot different back then, and it was a very gruesome death and very gruesome presenting of him as well. They were proud of that,
Yeah, it's really sad. And again, a lot of our history, in this country and, especially in New England, it's a very sad history. You want to look at the Salem witch trials, and if you really do a lot of looking back into history, you can tell that a lot of people were accused of witchcraft just off claims of children, and they had nothing to back anything up with. It was just children that came out and said they're under the spell of witchcraft by certain people, and they put these people to death. Now, which is good, they have a memorial in Salem, Massachusetts, which, of course, it's not going to change history, unfortunately, but, it's a start.
Yeah, it's nice to have a place to go. We went and visited there recently, and it was really nice to see, we can go back and at least honor these people who were so unfortunate to have to lose their lives for something so preposterous.
I used to say that I wanted to kind of grow up in that era, and I said this years ago, and I was pretty adamant with that, and that I wanted to grow up in a different time, especially with, these days being the way it is. But the more that we learned about history in this area, and just history in general, the more I started changing my mind about it. I definitely don't wish we grew up in that era, in that time frame, because there was a lot of crazy things that happened. Now, the King Philip's War took place, in a lot of different places of New England. So one of our next investigations is actually going to be at, what's the monastery? Is it called the monastery?
Yeah, it's the Cumberland Monastery. And then the monument that they had built is Nine Men's Misery, which we're going to give you more of the history of that when we do the video. We're going to explain what it is. But it's an area where the King Philip's War was fought, and there's a monument there for 9 soldiers. So it's really an interesting history there. There's also a history about a giant being buried there. They did an archaeological dig there. They found lots of really cool artifacts as well. So it's going to be really fun to hear about all the history that tied in with that area as well.
Yeah, we definitely want to see if both locations tie into one another. I mean, again, there was a lot of other locations that this battle took place in, but, we're looking to see if both of those locations particularly match up, if there's any correlations between the two. So it's going to be really interesting.
So we absolutely believe on the conclusion of that investigation, after putting everything together and from what you saw, that Chief Anawan and maybe the other tribe members were trying to tell us that they had regret that they didn't set up near water, and that's essentially what ended King Philip's War. So they really did tell us their story, and we were very appreciative that they were willing to communicate with us and really come through and let us know their story. As far as we believe, that's what we think they're trying to tell us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of undisputable. I mean, we got so much evidence pertaining to water and stuff, so that's what we believe was the conclusion of the investigation. Now, we don't know exactly the names of the spirits that we were speaking with. We asked multiple times. I think one, which was actually pretty eerie, we said, who we're speaking with, and the Diabolus actually said Jesus. Or you can even say Jesus, for that matter, who knows. But it was kind of eerie, nonetheless. But we didn't get any names on that investigation besides that, did we?
No, it did come up and say soldiers once.
It did say soldiers,
which
yes.
Is very relevant to what we were, talking about. So, but no names. So they shall remain anonymous. But I mean, we have an idea of who we were speaking to.
Right.
I'd like to believe it was Chief Anawan, but it could have been any of the other soldiers.
Could have been.
Coming through to tell us, they all regret that they set up camp there.
I think even the soldiers regret even doing the attack. That's what I think. Because again, these spirits are now in the afterlife. They're not battling over land anymore. They're not battling over territories. I think, all in all, I think the whole conclusion is they regret the entire situation that happened there at that location.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
And with that, I think it's time to wrap up the first podcast for Explore New England. We want to thank you so much, for your support. Believe me, we wouldn't be doing this without you. We appreciate your support on our YouTube page. And again, if you're not subscribed, please head over to our Explore New England YouTube page and definitely make sure you become a subscriber. We got some really, really exciting, cool stuff coming up in the new year. So definitely make sure that you hit that subscribe button, tap the bell so you can get notifications of when we release new videos, and definitely head on over to our Facebook page, like the page, because we got some pretty cool contests and giveaways and polls and a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah, we're really excited. And if you made it this far with us, thank you guys so much for listening along with us. Leave us a comment below. Let us know what you think, things you want to hear about, or just leave us a comment and let us know you listen to the podcast. We really appreciate all of your support, and we really can't wait to talk to you guys till next time.
Yeah, and if you guys got any questions, please leave them in the comments below. We'll definitely answer it. We're going to try to answer them on the next podcast if we don't answer it in the actual comments at the time that you leave them. So definitely, once again, thank you so much for your support, and we look forward to seeing you very soon.
Talk to you soon, guys.